Sheila Bair, former head of the FDIC, writes a terrific op-ed in the Washington Post. And she's been fighting against these big banks all along. One of the things I remember is that during the Clinton administration, she said, hey, you know what? If you deregulate the banks, they'll take out-of-control risks. And Robert Rubin, Larry Summers, all those guys laughed at her. And they're like, oh, yeah, right. What would this woman know? Like the banks would take big risks. Get out of here. And she said, they said she's not a team player. Well, that's true. That's why we respect her. And so she said in this op-ed, hey, you know what? What if we were all treated, all American households were treated like the big banks? Well, then we would get interest-free loans, because that's what the banks have been getting for years and years now. Trillions of dollars worth. In fact, over $7 trillion. The last time Bloomberg News did a report on it, they had the number, 7.7 trillion. It's probably more by now, but let's just take that conservative estimate. So she said, what if we gave the average American $10 million in interest-free loans? Now, we're not giving it to them. It's the Fed saying, here, it's a loan, and whatever investments you make will even keep as collateral, as they do with the banks, right? So what would happen to you? Well, I love this. She said, all you have to do is turn around and give it to the Treasury, and you would make 2%. But you're paying 0%. So it's free money. You know how much that would be per year? $200,000. That's $200,000 free money. You could all retire immediately, okay? I mean, unless you think 200,000 isn't enough. So that's why she says then you can put it into Greek treasuries if you like. That's much riskier, but it gives you a 21% return. That way you'd make 2.1 million. You think, well, that's a little too risky. I'll go for Portugal securities or bonds. 12%, you'd make $1.2 million a year. You can do anything you like. It ain't your money. You're able to borrow it at interest-free. Now, I love that she did this example. Why? One, you get a sense of, well, you can't lose. And if that happened to average Americans, of course, the Republicans, government officials, everybody would say, how could you give away this free money? It's big government doing this. No, you can't get it. But the big banks, they do it on a huge scale to the tune of trillions of dollars, and nobody complains about it. Or we do, and of course, it falls on deaf ears. Both Democrats and Republicans shovel the money over to them anyway. It's the same exact thing. There's no exaggeration. There's no anything. They get interest-free loans, near 0%. And they can turn around and give it back to the government at 2%, and they pocket the difference. Bloomberg did an analysis of that. $13 billion they made in free money. If you had been given that money and you just put it into treasuries, you would have made $13 billion. Just give it, they take government money, and then they give it back to the government, and in the meanwhile, they go, here, give me $13 billion in free money. If we got to do it, we'd all be rich. And the second reason I love it is it gives you a sense. Hey, if it's free money, and all the government has is the collateral. Like, so for example, if instead of buying the Treasury stuff, I buy the Portuguese debt instead, and that way I'm making 1.2 million instead of 200,000, and if it goes bad, who cares? It's not my money anyway. I say to the government, you deal with it, man. That's your bad Portuguese debt. So what are you going to do? Are you going to be a sucker and only make 200,000? No. You're going to put it in as risky as stuff as you can to make as much money in the short term as you possibly can, because it ain't your money anyway. And you have no downside. And now do you see why bankers both are robbing us by getting the free money, and B, incentivized to take the greatest possible risk? Because they might not even be at Goldman. That particular executive might not be at Goldman Sachs or Morgan Stanley or wherever in a couple of years. He thinks in the couple of years that I'm here, or shoot, in the 5, 10 years that I'm here, I got to take as much money home as possible. They're giving me free money and they're letting me take whatever risk I want with it. So why wouldn't they do it? Of course they will. And when you take that much risk, what's going to happen? At some point, you're going to lose one of those gambles. And when you do, you don't have to pay the bill. We all have to pay the bill.